There we go.
Yay. I'm just going to give it a few seconds and then start my intro so everyone knows we're live. Okay. Hello, if anyone is watching this. There's 4 of you here, and one of them's me. So hello to the 3 of you. So, welcome to Sprints and Chats with Kat. I have a whole intro spiel written out, so I'm just going to read that, even if no one's watching, because it went down to 2 people. Oh, and I know who those 2 people are. Hi, Erin. Hi, Abby. Thank you for joining. So this is the first time I've ever held a live stream on my channel, and I hope for it to be a regular thing because I love joining on everyone else's live streams. So the format for this one will be very familiar for everyone. We'll talk and read, talk and read, talk and read, and then we'll say goodbye. However, there will be a time limit on these because I want them to be like interview type formats as well. So there'll be about 20 minutes per section, so relatively short sprints in the grand scheme of things. So I want to interview different bookish people on these, and each section will have a different topic we'll cover, and anyone in the chat is welcome to ask questions as well. And so I'm trying to veer a little further into the talk show aspect of things rather than random chats. But tonight we will just talk and read. But as these evolve, I want to add extra sections. So tonight we have my first guest. You probably all know already, but I have an intro that I've written for her anyway. So Mel is an Aussie booktuber from Tasmania. She's been on the online sphere for a while, but her first booktube video on her channel, A Book Fiend Named Mel, was uploaded in October 2019. I first came across her in that same month when she uploaded her booktube newbie tag, and I am so glad I did. Mel has helped build out our little section of the bookish community. She's an expert at live streams. If there's one happening, Mel's probably there, or at least she knows about it. She reads widely, has her own fun TBR game, has created readathons like the Roll of Reads readathon and the Hemisphere Christmas Games readathon, and is one of the hosts of the Last to Read Book Club. And of course, when we think of Heartstopper, we think of Mel. Hello, Mel.
Hi. Thank you for that introduction. That was very nice.
Thank you. I wrote it in about 5 minutes because I was like not prepared for this. So
you did a great job. It's almost like you've watched my channel or something.
Yeah, weird.
Weird how that works.
Yeah. So we've also been joined by Ash, Tracy, and Lola. Hello, everyone.
Hi, everybody.
Thank you for watching. So this first chat section, before we get into our first reading sprint, we're just going to talk about books, which, big surprise.
I'm shocked.
Yeah. So, Mel, what are you currently reading, and what will you be reading tonight?
I am currently reading and will be reading tonight Babel by R.F. Kuang, and I'm absolutely loving it. I am just about 2/3 of the way through, and yeah, it's just getting very, very exciting, and I'm like, oh my god. Yeah, so
that's stunning. I want to read that one, but I haven't bought it yet.
It's so good. It's so good.
I don't think I've heard a bad thing about it yet.
Yeah, even people who are like, I didn't like it that much, are like, it was still good. I just didn't, it wasn't my thing necessarily.
I am reading Rule of Wolves by Lee Bardugo. I bought it like the week it came out and then didn't read it. So my motivation is that I have to finish that before I start Hellbent.
Fair enough.
I am terrified of her finales because I didn't like the Shadow and Bone finale, and I was very saddened by the Six of Crows finale. So,
oh no.
Yeah, I'm like, what is she going to do this time?
What's going to happen now? I bought Hellbent today.
Ooh, exciting.
It was pre-ordered for me and it came in, but I didn't go and pick it up. I mean, I pre-ordered it, but I didn't go and pick it up until today. And now I'm like, I want to read it, but I also want to finish Babel. And it's not on my TBR for this month because I don't know how. I knew it was coming in, but anyway.
Yeah, I am just basically like, I like read a Lee Bardugo book and then another one. But then today I was also made aware that Chain of Thorns, the third book in Cassandra Clare's Last Hours series, is coming out at the end of this month. And I was like, oh my God, what? How did I forget about that?
Too many things coming out.
Okay, so I have a few questions here about books and booktube. So
Yes.
Mel, big question here.
Yes.
What is your favorite book and why should we read it?
I knew you were going to ask that question, and still, I'm a booktuber. You can't just expect me to have one favorite. Well, currently, I'm really very much considering this is going to be a favorite because, yeah, I'm really enjoying it. So you should read it because it's amazing. Another favorite of mine is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I just really enjoyed the writing style and I thought the story was really interesting. And I liked the way that it all kind of came together and what some of the reveals were. And I was like, ooh, I didn't see that coming. And I like not knowing what's going to happen, not being able to guess. But mostly I just really enjoyed the writing style. I thought it was really interesting and really fun. And I like historical fiction that kind of weaves fantasy in, so it worked for me. Chocolat is a favorite of mine as well by Joanne Harris. It's an older one now. I don't remember when it was published, but it was like the movie came out in the 90s. So it was published at least 1990 or something like that. But it's just, again, really nice writing, really lyrical kind of writing, a little bit of magic, but historical fiction set in the real world, but with some magical stuff going on. So yeah, I just really enjoyed that one as well. Lord of the Rings, of course. It's one of my favorite series ever.
Could that be, Lola asked, which book have you loved the longest? Would that be Lord of the Rings?
I think it probably would be Lord of the Rings, yeah. Another candidate could be The Chronicles of Narnia, but I don't feel like it has as long... Like, I enjoyed the series, but I don't know if I went back and read it now, would I love it? Whereas I did read Lord of the Rings, not last year, the year before, and just really loved it again. And it had been quite a few years. So, yeah, I think Lord of the Rings would probably be, the book I've loved the longest because my parents read that to us when we were little. So that was,
cute.
yeah. So it was a book that I read before I was actually the one reading it, if that makes sense. Like before I was really capable of being the reader.
Yeah. Love that. It's adorable. My
It
parents
is
read
pretty cool.
nothing to me when I was young. I just found the books myself.
Aw, my family's big readers, so like my mum and dad have both always got a book on the go. So
my dad was a reader, but he'd read only like one specific genre, which was like mystery horse novels or something.
Right. Fair enough.
Yeah, so not so much for me.
Not so much, yeah, fair enough. That sounds very specific and not necessarily very child friendly.
Yeah. I read one once. I made a deal with him. If he read Twilight, I would read one of his books. I read one of his books. It was okay. He never finished Twilight.
Did he did try though? He did start it, or did he just...
He started it. He didn't get far.
Right. I think you kind of have to be the right age for Twilight to really enjoy it. Sorry, I just noticed my cat out of the corner of my eye. One of my cats stalking. I don't know what she's stalking, but she's just stalking along the floor.
Surprise special guest, the cats.
The cats. They're always here.
I'm just checking in with the comments. We've had some more people join. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
There's a few people. Erin's reading Hellbent, so no spoilers because I haven't started that yet.
Me neither.
Ash is reading Ninth House. Love it. Is that your first time, Ash, reading it or reread? Another person is reading Falling Sky, which is a German dystopia.
Ooh, interesting.
Abby is reading Witch Please, which is one of those it's like contemporary but fantasy, and is that one of those, right?
Is that like like one of those like kind of romance but with some little witchy elements kind of thing, like the X-Hex and stuff like that?
Tracy is reading Clark by Holly Thorsby. She's not loving it.
Oh, that's a shame.
The movie you mentioned before, is that the one with Johnny Depp?
Yes. Yeah. And Juliette Binoche.
Don't know who that is.
She's a French actress.
Makes sense.
I'm just reading the comments myself as well.
Yeah.
Oh, Ash has not read. This is her first time reading Ninth House.
Oh, exciting. I loved it. Hope
Me
you
too.
enjoyed it.
I loved it so much.
Oh, and then Sash is reading Death God's Sacrifice by Jenny Nordbach.
I've never heard of that one.
And then Abby did confirm, yes, modern romance with witches for Witch Please.
Cute.
Okay, now I'm going to go to a question from Instagram because I got a few questions from there. So this one is about buying books. So how do you budget for books, and how do you choose what to read, and how restricted it can be?
Well, how do I choose what to read? I have a TBR game, which Kat mentioned before. So I use that to choose what I'm going to read within the month. But then within the month, I mood read from those books, if that makes sense. Unless, of course, I'm buddy reading and we've got set times or something like that. How do I budget? Very badly. It's so funny. Like, before I started doing BookTube, being involved in BookTube, I definitely bought books, but I didn't. I definitely went to the library a lot more, and I just bought an e-reader actually before I started, like about 2 months before I started BookTube, and so I downloaded a few books on there. But yeah, I would definitely buy books and stuff, but I definitely didn't buy as many books or as like many books in one go kind of thing. And then started BookTube and started watching all these people buying books, and then I was like, oh, it's okay, I'm buying books. That's part of making BookTube, is buying books. You gotta have hauls and stuff. That's, people like to watch that. But I'm trying at the moment to only buy a book for every 5 books that I own that I've read. So it can be an ebook or an audiobook or a physical book. But that's what I'm trying to do at the moment. I'm failing miserably because I just bought Hellbent and I haven't read 5 books this year. But that was a pre-order, so I'm kind of like,
it counts for last year.
Yeah, exactly. And I wasn't doing that at the end of last year. Yeah, just because otherwise I worry about, well, I don't know if I worry about having books on my shelves, like lots and lots of books on my shelves that I'm not reading, but I just feel like there's going to become a point where I'm not going to be able to fit books in, and like I should read books before. Yeah. I've only got so much space, so I'm trying to be careful about that. But to be honest with you, I'm not really, it's more about space than it is about finances or anything. I'm not really, concerned about that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, mood. I have 5 piles of books on the ground here that don't fit on my shelves.
Yeah. My partner and I are renovating our spare room to become the new kind of lounge room, and he's building bookcases into the walls, and he's building a lot of bookcases, but I don't know how many. I don't know how it's going to work, whether everything that I own is going to fit or not. So I'm kind of a bit like, maybe it's time to start thinking about what do I really want to keep, and
Yeah. I'm basically just like, it's decor now. They're on the ground. It's decor.
Piles of books. It's my aesthetic.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah. And then another question from Instagram, because in a few minutes we'll go into our first sprint. So what is the best thing about being on BookTube?
Definitely the community, definitely doing things like this. And like, obviously it's virtual, but being able to chat with people and not yelling into the vacuum. Like, sometimes, as much as I do enjoy filming it, sometimes it feels a little bit like I'm talking to myself. So definitely the community, and like knowing that people are out there and people are watching, and comments. So people commenting, I love seeing when people have commented, doing lives like this, and just sort of chatting with people and feeling part of a community. But I just really enjoy everything, really, to be honest with you. Like, I even like writing the descriptions. I mean, I don't love that part because it's kind of like the last thing you do, and you're like, you've got, that's just the thing you've got to get done. But I still kind of enjoy thinking about, like, how am I going to make sure the information I need to have is in there without over the top, trying to be succinct, which I'm not very good at. Yeah.
I love that you like writing your description. Ever since being in my new job, well, it's not new now. I've been there over a year. I think about it in more of like SEO strategy, because it all counts for people being able to find your video. So I'm like, okay, what words do I need to include now? It's become a lot more technical for me, that part.
Yeah. That makes sense. I feel like maybe I need to like get your tips on that, because I don't know that I do try to be aware of that, and occasionally I watch videos from other people about like ways to improve and get more views and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I don't know how good I am at it.
Basically, if you think someone's going to type it into the search bar, put it in the description.
Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty much the entirety of SEO is. If you think someone's going to search it, write it.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, I think I do. You can probably tell right now. I tend to waffle. So my thing is trying to be succinct. So I think I need to like think more about what people are looking for, rather than just telling you like everything that was in the video. It's like, no, they're going to watch the video, Mel. They don't need to see everything that's in. They don't need a transcript in the description.
Could be helpful, but
could be. I mean, you never know.
Yeah. And just going to do a quick look through the comments before we get into our first sprint. So Lola, let's talk about books being much easier. Big W has great selection at good prices, and social media, you hear about books more. Definitely easier to get hands on those books. And then Kate has showed up, and she said that's where an e-reader comes in, space-wise.
Definitely. But I do still like physical books. Like, I like how they look on the shelves. So I'm the kind of person that'll be like, oh, I downloaded this on the e-reader and I loved it, so now I want to get the physical copy of it. Yeah.
And then Sash I forgot I was unhauling one book for every one book that I haul, and I already hauled like 10 books this month.
Oh no.
Good work. Does that mean you have to get rid of 10?
Yeah, I want to see a video of that. I want to see you like stressing, oh God, how do I get rid of 10 more books?
Yeah.
I like Lola's comment. Definitely that's what it is, Lola. Raking in the big bucks.
Yeah. All the money. You don't even have to think about it. You're just like, you hand over your card and you buy the whole store.
Exactly.
Okay, so I'm going to go into our first reading sprints now. So they're all going to be 20 minutes long because I want each thing to be a 20-minute block.
Sounds good.
Can you? There we go.
Oh, that's so cute.
The cute Shivas in the library thing.
Just for you, Erin.
Okay, so I will see everyone back in 20 minutes where we'll be talking about readathons.
Yay! Hello.
Hello. Good reading sprint?
Yes, although I spent the first probably half of it notifying people that my video had just gone live.
I mean, worthwhile thing to do during the time.
I thought so.
You can also promo yourself here, everyone. Mel has a new
I have a new video and it's an exciting announcement, but I'll leave that until later because it ties in with the book club stuff.
Ooh, sneak peek.
Yeah. Very exciting.
Okay. So, in this next section of talking, we're going to talk about readathons because you've participated in many, you've created some, and they're like a staple within the booktube and bookish community overall now. So what do you like about the readathons? What draws you to them? Why do you like to get involved?
I like the prompts. I like that they make me think about how I'm reading and make me reach for things that maybe I wouldn't have reached for. I like the community aspect of it. I like, oftentimes these days, readathons seem to have like sprints like this attached to them, and I like that aspect of it. Yeah, I think that's probably the two main things that makes me enjoy them.
Yeah, it always seems to come back to community and community building.
Yeah.
So, I think you just have the two readathons you've helped create.
Yeah.
So the first one that we're going to speak about is the Hemisphere Christmas Games Readathon. So I know how it came about because I was one of the first hosts and I helped you structure it. But for everyone else, maybe speak a little about the idea and the creation and then how it's evolved over the past few years as well, because it's a little different to the way it was in the beginning.
Yeah. So basically it started as an idea because everything in the world, but particularly in the bookish community, everything seems to be very much marketed and as though we all live in the same, as though we all live in North America or the UK, basically, and have the same experience. And so people tend to do readathons like that as well. So all the Christmas readathons were all about snow and being cold and reading seasonally, which meant reading books about being in the snow and in the cold. And I was kind of like, do you guys know that there are other parts of the world that don't live like that, right? Like, you are aware of that. It's actually a little tiny bit of a pet peeve of mine.
Mood. I hate it.
Particularly with things like, a little bit with readathons, although I kind of feel like that's a little bit more understandable because you've got to think of prompts, I guess, and a lot of people do. Like, even in Australia, we do associate Christmas with a lot of snow, cold aspects because of how it's always been marketed. But like, I think it's the end of the year tag, where there's a question about autumnal books to get you into the end of the year, and I'm just like, that's got nothing to do with the end of the year. Like, why? So it kind of bugged me, and so I wanted to do something that was a bit more Australian, a bit more kind of focused on, like, we have summer and what's our Christmas actually like. And so obviously I approached yourself and I approached Jenna from Just a Little Bit Random and Ellie from Earl Grey Books, and you guys were all very keen, which was exciting. And I think it was you, Kat, who came up with the idea of doing a competition between the two, which I thought sounded like a really cool idea. And I think that I feel like you kind of said something along the lines of that you didn't think that many people in the Northern Hemisphere would be that we wouldn't get that many people interested because there are a lot more Northern Hemisphere booktubers. if it was all about the South, because they wouldn't necessarily relate. Whereas if we did the North and the South, it would kind of get a lot more people's attention, I think. I don't know if that's what you...
Maybe we could always go back through the chat. But yeah, it sounds about the right type of thing. Like people in the Northern Hemisphere, like they'd be more likely to find it and then, or like make that connection to the Southern Hemisphere if they had their own connection into it.
Yeah, that's kind of where I think we ended up going with it. And so we decided on a few different people from the Northern Hemisphere that we'd approach to be hosts, and that's where it kind of grew out of. And in the first iteration, we had a lot more specific prompts to do with books, and I really wanted to try and get people from the Northern Hemisphere to be able to appreciate that even people in the Northern Hemisphere, like places like Florida, don't have cold and snow at Christmas, and that there are other kind of ways of experiencing the world. So that was kind of my focus to begin with, but I feel like this last couple of, I feel like we've kind of tried to make it a lot more approachable, not so much from a point of view of you don't have to worry about looking at other the other way other people live kind of thing, but more just to allow people to join in where they're having to do a lot of work for what they're reading, considering it's Christmas, and people have a lot going on at Christmas time and don't necessarily want to have to by participating in something, they don't necessarily want to have to put a lot of effort into participating. So that's where this year I kind of came up with the idea of doing the 10 1 point every 10 pages read, as a way of kind of encouraging people just to join in, and then the bonus points for reading a book that is set at Christmas in the hemisphere in your hemisphere, but then opposite to yourself. And I did that because I thought encouraging people trying to get those points will try to find we'll try to find something from the other hemisphere, because that's where you get the most amount of points. But also it kind of felt like, well, we don't necessarily have as many Christmas books set in summer, but at least we get more points for inevitably having to read books set in a different part of the world to what a different way of how we live. But yeah, it's kind of started out as a let's get people to think about how the world does not have the same autumn, winter at the same time, and etc. And then it's kind of evolved more into let's just think of a way to make it approachable that people can join in and have some fun, and just have fun with each other kind of thing.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of readathons evolve in a way to make them a little more chill and a more accessible to easily join in, just because everyone's lives just gotten so busy, and you want to do these things, but then you're like, oh no, I don't have time. It's you have something there for the people who just want to casually join in, but then if people want to go hard, they can.
Exactly. And I think also TBR games are becoming a staple of BookTube as well. And with so many people coming up with TBR games, it makes the prompts for Readathon a lot harder to fulfill. So when I first started, I obviously haven't been around as long as you, Kat, so I don't know before I got involved. But when I first sort of started watching BookTube and started getting involved with things, Readathons were much more prompt orientated and much more like read a book with a purple cover and read a book that does this and read a book that does that. And you had your set 6 prompts and what have you. But yeah, like you say, it feels like it's moving away from that and moving more to just join in, have fun. If you read one book, you still are participating, kind of thing. And so I think I wanted to have that more chilled aspect, but particularly given that it's Christmas and I know how busy everybody is as well. So,
yeah, absolutely. From like 2014 to now, BookTube is vastly different. TBR games weren't even a thought back then, really.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Like, I feel like there's more people involved as well. Like, even since I started, it feels like the amount of people that are that have a channel is so much more than it was even 3 years ago, let alone like 10 years, 8 years ago or 10 years ago or whatever. So I guess it makes sense that things change as more people get involved and more people have their own ideas and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So then your other readathon was based on your old TBR game. It was the Roll of Reeds readathon.
Yeah.
So based on both your TBR game and the readathon, how did that come about? And then also, how did you feel about the response to it and like how many people participated in?
I actually can't remember how many people participated, but I was pretty blown away with how many people participated. So I think it was something like maybe 25 or something like that, which, especially given that in March last year I had 500 subscribers or something like that. Like, that's actually quite a lot of people. Because obviously, as we all know, you have 500 subscribers, you probably only get 15 people watching, like 15 views per video. There's a lot lower percentage of people who actually watch the videos that are subscribed to your channel. So I was pretty blown away by how many people joined in. I think potentially because realistically the gameplay for Roll of Reeds is pretty easy. Like you just put cards on a table in a certain configuration and roll a d20 and then but yeah, I was pretty amazed, and I was pretty amazed by the kind of amount of people. Like, I knew that people like yourself and Ellie and Paige and different people would probably potentially get involved, but I think the person that blew me away the most was actually Rye from Rye's Reading Corner. I had no idea she even knew who I was. And then she was doing my readathon, so that was amazing. And yeah. So yeah. How did the actual readathon happen? Basically, I just thought it would be fun. I'd had lots of people comment on the video, on the TBR game, and how much fun it was. And I had been thinking for a while that it would be fun to make it into a readathon, but I was a bit kind of like, oh, but I'm tiny, no one cares. And then I saw Crystal from Bond Book Reviews did a readathon of her, what's it called? Pick Pong game. And she, at the time, I think had a few less subscribers than I did. And I was like, if Crystal can do it, then I can do it. We're roughly the same. Like, why not just do it? If you want to do it, it'll be fun. So yeah. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, I love that. Being like inspired by like other booktubers and like being bolstered by them. It's again comes back to community.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. For continuing like the being inspired by booktubers, if someone wanted to start their own readathon, what would be like your top tips?
My top tips would be basically don't worry about like thinking that you're too small or that you're too that your channel's too small or that you don't have enough subscribers or whatever. If you have an idea and you think that it would work, then you should do it. But on the flip side of that, be prepared. I think most people that I see doing readathons, certainly readathons that I have participated in, are really well organized, and you know exactly what's going on. They either explain it perfectly so you don't have to even ask questions, but even if they don't, then they're always know exactly, you know, they have all the answers kind of thing. I can't think of which readathon it was, and also I don't want to throw shade. I won't throw you, don't worry. But I remember I saw a readathon, someone talking about a readathon, and it was so confusing just watching the announcement video that I was like, I don't really think I want to do that because I have no idea what you're talking about. So I think make sure you know everything that people will need to know. And I guess also, like, don't be afraid to start no matter how many subscribers you have. But I guess if you are a smaller channel, finding some bigger channels that might be interested in getting involved. I don't mean like messaging Murphy Napier and asking her to, because that would probably never work. But like people, you know, if you've got 200 subscribers, maybe contact a couple of people that you know who might have 700 or 1,000 or something, just so that and see if they'll be interested in helping you co-host or something like that, just to help get the word out there more than anything else. And yeah, don't be afraid to just annoy everybody. I'm very much like, I know a lot of people I talk to say that like their real life friends or family often don't know. I'm not like that. I'm like, I have a booktube channel, by the way. Like, I told a couple of classes, like, you know.
Wow.
So I'm not afraid of telling people. And I mean, not that you need to go that extent, but like, yeah, put it on Twitter, put it on all the places where, you know, on Instagram. Don't be afraid to, and because for every person that's annoyed and like, oh, shut up, there'll be another person who's like, oh, that's interesting. So
yeah, mostly people, yeah, I think like messaging anyone to be like love to be included and to be thought of, and like I totally have the same thing where I'm like, I'm worried about annoying people if I message them, but then they're like, no, I love it, like message me. So
yeah, exactly.
gotta
And
get
I
past
think
that social anxiety.
the worst that can happen is people will ignore you. And sometimes, like, I find that difficult to, if I message someone and they never respond, I'm a bit like, fine. But at the same time, like, it, like, really, does it, like, they don't, it's just nothing that's not negative. So, you know, the worst thing they can do is ignore you. And yeah, that, I don't know how people feel about being ignored. I personally kind of find it annoying, but mostly I'm like, oh well, next person.
Yeah, prefer not to be ignored, but yeah.
Yeah, it's better than like having someone yell at you.
Yeah. True.
But yeah.
Okay, so it has been another 20 minutes already. The time is already flying. So we're going to go back into our next amount of sprint. So it'll be another 20 minutes. I'm just kind of, yeah, there we go. I was waiting for it to flick over to 8 p.m. So it's on the dot.
There we go.
I got to remember which one of these. There we go.
Awesome.
See everyone in
Happy
20 minutes.
reading.
Hello.
Hello. I got so caught up in what I was reading, I didn't realize how much time had passed. And I looked up, and there was 4 minutes left on the sprint. I was like, oh my god!
Yeah, it went so quickly. I only read one chapter in that, and I was like, what?
But I think we've gotten used to like longer sprints.
Yeah.
20 minutes. It's like, oh my god, what?
A couple of comments before Shannon was there as well. I don't know what time zone you're in, but Shannon, if you're still here, nice to meet you. It's only 8:20 for us at night. Well, the sun's technically still up for me. Is the sun still up in Tassie?
Technically, yeah. Although I think it's fairly overcast out there. We've had our blinds shut all day because it's been pretty hot.
So hot. Yeah. It was 37 here today.
I'm not actually sure exactly what temperature it was today, but I think it was around 30, 32, which for Tassie is like dying.
Kate said she's halfway through Addicted to You after starting it last night. I don't know what that is. Based on what I know Kate reads, it's either like a thriller or a romance, and the title could go either way, really.
Yeah, it could. It could be a thrilling romance.
And then for what we're reading, and Rule of Wolves.
Only 2 very popular books.
Yeah, but we're catching up. Which leads us into our next segment. You have a whole book club about reading books that you haven't read yet. So
I do.
Catching up on books. I love that segue.
Almost like we planned it or something. Whoa. I do have a whole book club about that. Although it has sort of morphed into less about backlist books. We are, in fact, I think we are reading one book this year that comes out this year. And last year we read The Killing Code the month after it came out. So, yeah, we've moved away from that. But still, we are still definitely reading more backlist stuff. Yeah, it's really fun. People should join us.
Yeah, so about the creation of your book club, how did it come about? You host with Ellie and Lana.
It really kind of came from sprints, actually. So after our first time that we did the readathon that we were talking about before, which is our readathon, but I've still Hemisphere Christmas Games. My brain was not letting me remember the name of my own thing. After that, I started sprinting with Ellie quite a bit, and Lana was always in the comments. And then a few times we asked if Lana wanted to join in on the camera as well. And so, yeah, we were doing a lot of stuff like that together, and we just really enjoyed chatting and hanging out and talking about books and stuff. And so we thought, we actually initially wanted to do a read along of, we had like 3 or 4 different ideas of different read along or different series we could read along, but people kept announcing read alongs of those series as we were talking about them. And then eventually we just thought, let's just do a book club. That's more our speed anyway. Then we can just read whatever. So yeah, and it's been going now for like a year and a half, I think.
Yeah, I remember I was at my old job when it started because I joined in on the first one. So it's been a while now.
That sounds about right. Yeah, so it's been quite a while. And recently, I think about 2 or 3 months ago, we opened an Etsy store, and we are selling some bookmarks. And I have one of the bookmarks here.
One you prepared earlier.
One I prepared earlier.
Chaos is here.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Because we are very chaotic. So, yeah, we have an Etsy store, which is called Bookabara Creations. So please go and check that out on Etsy. And then the thing that I referred to earlier but didn't explain is that we've actually started Ko-Fi memberships as of today. So my most recent video was announcing the Ko-Fi memberships. So we have 3 memberships. And yeah, you get different the way Ko-Fi is very similar to Patreon, so it works in the same way. So there's 3 tiers, and each one has different benefits, and I could go into more details about what they are if you want, but also there is an announcement video up on my channel, so you could go and watch that.
I am on my way to find the link now to put it in the chat so everyone can
thank
just have it easily.
But yeah, so we're really excited about that, and we're hoping that we'll get some people joining up. As you would probably imagine, one of the benefits is more sprints. So we'll be doing weekly sprints as part of the Ko-Fi, but that doesn't mean we won't also do public weekly sprints as well, which we probably will. But the book club doesn't change. You can still join in and read. Oh, that's. I'm like, why can I hear? Why is it?
Yeah.
Oh wait.
I pressed pause and then it didn't pause, but I paused it.
Yeah. So the book club won't change. You can still join in every month with the books, read the books, and join in the live show. There is a Discord, a public Discord. All of that won't change. So this is just extra things on top. So it's not like the book club isn't going over to Ko-Fi and that's it. But yeah. Yeah.
Amazing.
So we're very excited.
Yeah, it's all very exciting things are happening, guys. Within the book club, out of all of the books you've read, what's been your fave and what's been your least fave?
I'm probably going to get some hate for my least fave. Caraval was my least favorite. I gave it like 3 stars, so it wasn't like it was a hated book. It just, I was expecting a lot more from it than I got, and I just kind of was meh. My favorite book, we've read quite a few really good ones that I really enjoyed. Probably I'd have to say Terra Nullius though, by Claire G. Coleman. If you guys have been around for any length of time on my channel, you will know that I absolutely love that book. I was completely blown away by it. So yeah, I'd have to say that one. But Ellie introduced me to Ellie Marnie, who is an Australian author, and we've read a trilogy by her. That was the first lot of books that we read that you joined in for. And then we also read The Killing Code, which was her most recent release. Her most recent release last year. And they were amazing. Really enjoyed Vespertine. Yeah, but I think Terra Nullius would have to be the one.
Yeah, maybe. We have a question from Kate here. Is there a reason you chose Ko-fi instead of Patreon or Ko-fi?
We chose Ko-Fi initially because you can tip. So they have, it's very similar to Patreon with the membership tiers, but they have another level where you can just tip people. So if you can't afford to join a membership, you can just give a once off of $1 or whatever. And we thought that would be a nice way for people, if they did see the memberships, to say, oh, that's really cool, but I can't really commit to that or whatever, and they could still show support by tipping us. And also we actually started Ko-Fi a few months ago as well, but just as a tipping thing because we thought it might be a good way to help get the bookmarks up and running on the Etsy store, help us to pay for printing of the bookmarks and all that stuff. So that's why we started on Ko-Fi. But also, I just feel like it's a little bit more. It has a bit more of a casual vibe to it, and that's more our speed. That's probably entirely invented, but I don't know why.
Yeah, love that. So if you guys want to go support the Last Read Book Club, you can go tip them, or you can join the monthly version.
Yeah.
And then Tracy also said she's going to watch the video in the next break.
Thank you, Tracy.
Yeah. So for your books, how did you go about choosing the books as well? I know that every series was very much like Ellie being like, everyone has to read this, which is what finally made me read it because I owned a copy of the first one. So I was like, guess I'm reading it now.
It's nice to have a reason to read something that you've had on your shelves. So that was Ellie. That was Ellie's suggestion. She wanted to start with that series. She thought we'd enjoy it. And also, when we first started, we didn't know who'd be interested, whether we'd get many people. So we thought we'd start with something. We thought it was sort of a testing zone, so we didn't want to go all out and do like a super popular series. One of the series that we read as well was the Toll, the Scythe series, Arc of the Scythe trilogy by Neil Shusterman. And that was one of the series that we had initially been talking about. Let's do a read along of that. But then at the time we were talking about that, Becca from the Becca Fowl and a few other people decided to do their read along, and they announced it first. And we were like, well, we can't just, it's one of the, people, there are how many readathons every month? Like, it's that tricky thing of how do I fit it in when we other people, but we didn't feel like we could announce something when we knew. It's different, I guess, if you don't know or you find out about it later, but we didn't want to kind of horn in on what they were doing. So we had that on the back burner already, and we knew we wanted to read that as a group. We've asked for suggestions, so we do have a Discord where we talk about the books we're reading and whatnot, and we've asked for lots of suggestions over there, and people have made lots of different suggestions. We did have a comment from one of our members about a lot of what we'd been choosing being quite heteronormative, so we kind of made an effort to branch out, well, not branch out, but to read LGBTQIA+ books. And this year we want to diversify, and we want to not just read the same old. Terra Nullius was picked because Erin actually sent that to me for my birthday, and she and I talked about buddy reading it, and then we were talking, Ellie and Lana were talking about what we should read and upcoming, and I was like, well, actually, Erin and I were going to buddy read this. Maybe we could do that as a so different things like that. But yeah, lots of suggestions and different suggestions from different people, which has been really good.
Yeah, amazing, exciting to see. I think you guys said that you had already picked a bunch for this year. Was that correct, or am I thinking about a different?
Yeah, no, we've already picked the first 6 months for this year. We're trying to be a lot more organized this year than we have been in the past. So we've already picked this. We've actually already picked everything for the year, but we're only releasing the first 6 months because otherwise it'll be a bit overwhelming. And we also this year decided to try to fit in a few of the kind of bigger community, not just BookTube, but community events that happen. So I think, is it May or April? Yeah, it's May is Asian American month. So we chose a book to kind of fit in with that. And then June being Pride Month, we chose an LGBTQIA plus book to fit in with that. And then Lana runs the Indie Accords in July, so we picked an indie book in July, different things like that. But we've also had suggestions from, like I said, from people. So some of the books we'll be reading are books that people have suggested, and yeah, just books that we thought sounded interesting, really. So yeah, the book that we're reading this month is The Fae Keeper by H.E. Edgman, which is the second book in the Witch King series. That was suggested by one of our members, Eli, and he suggested the book because we were asking, does anyone have any suggestions of books that feature LGBTQIA+, and the author is a trans author, so we picked the first one for June last year for Pride Month, and then we all really liked it, so we were like, let's read the second one. So yeah, just different things like that.
I love it when things work out like that. It would have been awkward if you all had hated the first book and then
yeah.
the second one.
That would have been quite awkward, yes. Fortunately, that did not happen though.
And then before we go into our last sprint of the night, and there was another question from Insta that I had in my Insta questions to the side. So it's about making content. So you can think about it as in YouTube or Instagram or just in general. So what's the hardest thing about making content, and what opposed to that, what's the best thing? Big question.
Big question. Just from a technical point of view, my partner works from home. So it can be difficult to find time where he works from home, but he does a lot of meetings. So it can be difficult to find time when he's not in a meeting to film. Because I use mostly daylight for my lighting, so I kind of try to do it in the day. From I don't know if this is necessarily entirely what the person was asking, but one of the big things for me, and I'm sure it's probably similar for a lot of people, is the comparison to other content creators, particularly on YouTube, and seeing people who maybe started at similar time or started later than you fly ahead in terms of subscription numbers and stuff like that, and that can be really hard. I mean, I'm sure it's completely normal for humans to do that, not just on YouTube, but yeah, it can be really hard to kind of not feel like, what am I doing wrong? Why don't people like me? And to constantly compare yourself to others. So I feel like that can be really, really tricky. And just kind of being like not letting it get you down and thinking about it positively and everything. Coming up with content, I usually don't find that hard, but that is partly because I do have regular things that I do. So having the TBR game, and obviously people do wrap-ups are a fairly staple thing in YouTube, in BookTube, and then the extra game that I play as part of my wrap-up as well. So having those 3 videos, always something I do, does make it a lot easier to come up with content. There's always tags. Yeah, so sorry, I've kind of lost track of the question.
Okay, yeah, so it was the hardest thing and the best thing about content.
Okay, about content.
So what's the best thing?
The Best thing I think is just talking about books. I know that sounds really basic, but yeah, the best thing is just being able to share your love of something, and yeah, just being able to share your love of something. But also finding new ways to express that, and new ways to make content. So we're talking about, I mentioned tags. There's always tags that you can do, whether you're tagged in them or not, which is always fun, easy content to create. Easy in the sense of like, you don't have to, a lot of the work's done for you.
Yeah.
But I've recently got very into bullet journaling, watching bullet journaling videos, and I started last year, but this year I feel like I've gotten a lot more involved in making my own reading journal, and so I've started making content from that. And that's really fun, just finding a new creative outlet that is kind of tangential to BookTube, but because of being part of YouTube, that then is content in and of itself, because I've done the journal videos. So yeah, I don't know I feel like I don't know if I answered the question, but hopefully
I think you did. It was pretty great though. Yeah, I definitely feel you on all of those, like the comparing to other people. Like I've seen, because it's the new year, there's a lot of videos of like I've seen of people posting being like, I gained 100,000 subscribers in 6 months. You can do it too. It's like, no, not so much.
Yeah.
But yeah, being able to like find a nerdy community and have discussions about things is good.
Yeah, definitely. And I think like, all of those, oh, I got to 1,000 subscribers in 2 days kind of thing is like, yeah, did you sell your soul? Like,
Which
I
Crossroads demon did you have
yeah,
with? Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. And I've heard like people mentioning that there are people who kind of go out and kind of crowdfund in a way. And I don't know how true that is, but it wouldn't surprise me. I don't know that anyone in the booktube community does that, but in YouTube in general. But there's also like books are a very tiny niche. Like even I mentioned before Murphy Napier, like even someone within the book community who is a massive YouTuber is a drop in the ocean for YouTube at large. So I kind of feel like on the one hand it can be tricky, but I kind of like to remind myself of that. Like my partner watches a lot of gaming videos and stuff, and they have just a ridiculous number. I mean, they have honestly an unmanageable amount of subscribers. So just like, yeah, comparatively, like, and I think a friend of mine the other day said something about, imagine if you had, because I was talking about having 1,000 subscribers and how excited I was, but I was saying that that's nothing. And they were like, yeah, but imagine if you were in a like football field and you had 1,000 people around you. Like that's a lot of people to have around you, which is a kind of nice way to think about. Oh yeah, okay, it's actually not nothing.
Yeah.
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 But yeah.
Amazing. So basically, everyone you're doing good.
Yeah. Just keep doing your thing.
And on that note, we will go into our last reading sprint of the night. So I hope everyone enjoys watch their reading.
Yeah.
Okay. See you soon. Hello.
Hello.
I had a scenery change because there's a very loud and obnoxious noise happening outside. For some reason, it happens every night, and it's quieter in here. So
Fair enough.
I don't know what it is. It sounds like crickets, but I don't think it's crickets because it starts at 9 p.m. on the dot every night and then goes for like an hour, and that's it.
That's really strange.
Yeah.
And annoying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Oh, so that was our last sprint. If anyone is still watching, how did you go with your reading? Are you enjoying what you're reading? Anything big happen?
This is kind of like, I think the rest of this book is going to be a series of big things happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm loving it. It's really, really good. I don't tab very often, but I am tabbing this time because there's just so many things.
Yeah, I don't tab, but I have like a note on my phone of like, I like make a note of a page and stuff.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. There's also, they've mentioned a very big character in this that I didn't think was going to be in this. And they haven't shown up yet. I didn't think they were going to show up, but now I'm like, maybe they will show up.
Interesting.
Okay.
Very cool.
Kay said she thinks it's the electricity. It happens there too.
Oh,
She lives in the
okay.
next suburb over from me. So.
Oh, right.
I went to investigate it at one point, and I think it was coming from up, so it could be the electricity lines.
Maybe.
No.
Who knows?
Abby read 20 pages. It's still better than nothing.
Still, yeah, exactly. I don't think I read any more than that either.
Yeah, I read one chapter per sprint. So given they are quite long chapters, but
still, 20 minutes is not a huge amount of time.
And then Ash watched your video.
Yay! Thanks, Ash.
Okay, so we're gonna wrap up now. Mel, is there any? We've already kind of gone over your new announcement and stuff, but where can people catch you? What's up next? What are you doing next in the bookish world?
Next in the bookish world, I'm just gonna keep on keeping on. I post every Wednesdays and Saturdays, so I'm gonna keep doing that, and hopefully this Ko-Fi will take off, and we'll be able to do stuff there. So yeah, more of the same, really, but you know, I like it.
And Tracy said she watched the video too.
Thank you, Tracy.
So thank you everyone for joining. Thank you, Mel, for being the first guest on Sprints and Chats with Kat.
Thank you for having me. It was really fun.
Thank you. If anybody watching wants to be a guest on this, then message me, and I need a guest for next month. So
to do it. It was lots of fun. It was very nice. Made me feel like a celebrity.
Because you are a celebrity in the bookish community. But that's your energy for 2023. You're a celebrity. Own
Yay! I like that energy. That's good energy. Thank you. Thanks,
Thank
Abby.
you everyone for being here.
Thank you.
Well, yes, if you haven't watched Mel's video, go watch that. And if you're watching this and you aren't subscribed to either of us, subscribe. I'm recently monetized, so watch the ads, please. I need money.
Very exciting.
Okay. And we're going to head off now. Bye, everyone.
Bye.